another day of adventures with Wes and Jeff. And today we are in the southwestern part of South Dakota, and we're at another national park in the United States. We are at Wind Cave National Park. What is Wind Cave? Wind Cave is under the ground. It's 143 miles long. It's all under here. We're going to go on 2 wonderful hikes today with the guide from the Park Ranger Service to explore these caves. Above ground, they have some really cool animals. We're going to take a hike to the Rankin Ridge Trail, which is the highest point in the park. This is a really cool park. It's in South Dakota. We'll have a good time today. Whatever you're doing today, get out and enjoy the great outdoors and do something that makes you smile. Located in the Black Hills region of South Dakota, Wind Cave National Park was established as our 7th national park by Theodore Roosevelt back in 1903, and is unique for being the first national park created to protect a cave system and for its rare boxwork formations within the cave. The park is 33,970 acres large and receives about 700,000 visitors per year. The 143 miles of cave system is over 300 million years old and is home to the largest bison population in the national park system, as well as to elk, pronghorn, mule deer, black-tailed prairie dogs, coyotes, and black-footed ferrets. To see some buffalo. The difference between a buffalo and a bison, a lot of people often think, well, what is the difference between the two? Well, the actual name of this animal is a bison, but we often refer to it as a buffalo. So one and the same for the most part. It's an animal of about 2,000 pounds. We often had a lot of them in this area in the prairie lands of Wind Cave National Park and Badlands in South Dakota back in the day before the Western settlers come in, and they pretty much hunted them to extinction. So what happened was they introduced a few from the New York Bronx Zoo, and they brought them back. So now here at Wind Cave National Park, we have about 300 to 500 in the herd. And so they're off in the distance. It's hard to see over my shoulder here, but we'll probably get some other pictures of the bison. We're at the prairie dog town. The prairie dogs are the little guys that have their homes underneath the ground, and they have this chirping sound, and I wanted to just show you this little guy here before he goes away. So this is a little pull off, and he is alarming all of his little friends that, hey, there's somebody in our territory. He's chirping away here and there. And if you look off in the distance, there's a bunch of other little mounds. Not as many here as there is across the street, but this is kind of the turnoff to where you go to get the cave tours of Wind Cave. And there were bison across the street. That was kind of fun. But if you look across these prairie grasslands, all kinds of prairie dogs, they have their homes in here, and they have their little colonies that they have. This guy is a very vocal one. He's the lookout tower. They sit up on their hind legs, and they check out the terrain to make sure that nothing is gonna eat them or harm them in any way. We just saw a coyote that was scouting these guys, so he did not get one when we were here. The Wind Cave National Park Visitor Center is located in the southwestern portion of the park boundaries. This is a great place to start your visit to the park to learn about the history of the cave system, the prairie, the wildlife, and to explore the exhibits. They also have a free movie shown in the auditorium showcasing the cave, the park's colorful history, and the prairie. All cave tours start and end at the visitor center and are ranger-led programs. No self-guided tours are available. Tickets for the tours are required and advance reservations are strongly recommended because they do sell out. This is the actual hole to the natural cave that is actually blowing out the barometric. Based on the barometric pressure, it's blowing out of the cave, so hence the name Wind Cave National Park. This is one of the two tours that we took at this underground cave that was discovered back in the late 1800s by some individuals that were some exploring in the area, hunting the area. We walked by this hole and it blew off their hats. The wind was coming out of this hole and they were intrigued by it. They came back later and they found out that there was a whole cave system underneath this ground. And so to date, there's 162 miles of cave system here at Wind Cave National Park. I'm just going to zoom in on it a little bit, flip the camera around. So they say this is the birthplace to the nation of the Dakota people, and they are they consider this a sacred place. I don't know, I can feel the actual wind coming out of the cave right now. You can see the leaves moving. There's really no breeze today, but you can see that they are moving, and they have all of these colored flags here to kind of show the wind coming out of the cave. They determined that it is what makes it wind come out of the cave is the barometric pressure. When it is lower on the inside and higher on the outside, the wind comes out of the cave. When it's the opposite, it actually sucks the wind into the cave. So that's why they call this area and this national park Wind Cave National Park.
Hidden inside Wind Cave here, there's a portal that leads from the spirit world into the physical world. That while the Creator was creating everything around us, the Lakota people were instructed to remain inside of Wind Cave. So they waited and waited and waited, and these two trickster spirits came along. One was this little spider spirit. The other was this woman who had a beautiful face on one side, and on the other side of her face was horrendously ugly. So they basically decided that they were going to go down into the cave and trick some of the people into coming out before the earth was ready here. So they sent a woman spirit guide, and they filled its pack with meat, berries, and beautiful clothes, sent it on down, and they succeeded. Some of the people came out of the cave. They went back and forth, and McDonald's accused the stablers of fudging the numbers in the books, and back and forth, back and forth. But they both had different claims to the land here. The McDonald's had that homesteading claim, while the stablers had the claim on the mining rights for this area. So they took it to a third party, and they wanted to see who actually owned the land here. That third party found that neither of them owned the land because tourism was not a valid claim to the land back in the day. So it became U.S. property, and the U.S. government did a survey down here, and they basically found out that they were damaging the cave too. Like I said, no sample, no specimen from the cave was left, was not off limits for their rock collections at the time. So unfortunately, they did a lot of damage to this cave, and you can still see it, even up here as well. See how all that's broken off? That was done back in the day. So, when Cave National Park was established in 1903, it's the 7th national park and creates the Park Service as a whole. So, it just kind of bubbled away and ate away at the limestone like it eats away at your teeth. But it didn't eat away at that calcite nearly as much as it ate away at the limestone, forming the boxwork that you see above us right now. Boxwork, like I was saying, is a feature that's very endemic to Wind Cave. And it's the thing I was talking about. If you heard me say at the beginning, try to see something you haven't seen in any other cave. This is it right here. Now, as I was saying at the trail shelter, 95% of the world's boxwork here is at Wind Cave. So, something that's pretty awesome, and I really like to show off. But there's another thing that's pretty cool about this park. So we've been running routes on these tours since about the 1890s. Now, a really, really long time. Before it became a national park, one of the things that they used to do is they used to write their names on the walls. So if you look right up here, where my flashlight is brightest, you see a name that says Lillian Dance, 12992. Okay, not 1992, they weren't listening to Nirvana down here, 1892. So, it would be a federal crime if you did try to do that now, though, so I would really recommend.
Standing in the Elks Room. Alright? The reason why it's called the Elks Room is for two reasons. First, this was named after Elks Lodge. For those of you who are familiar, it's the social group, right? It is also named after this rock right here. They say that it looks like an elk's head. If you can't see it, don't worry, because it kind of just looks like a rock. And we're not here to talk about this rock. We're here to talk about something else. So, what else do we see in this room?
Boxwork.
Yeah, so if you look above you, you're going to see all this boxwork, right? It's all above us, and it's all around us, okay? So yeah, we are completely surrounded by boxwork in this room. Wind Cave National Park holds 95% of the world's known boxwork formations, alright? Yeah, so the reason why it's called boxwork is because back in the 1880s, when the first explorers came down into this cave, they saw it from, the underside, like how we are doing right now, and the area where they were in the cave, they saw this, and it was a lot more squarish looking, and it looked like little cubby holes. They thought that it looked like the mailboxes in a post office. And that's why it's called boxwork. Okay, so then it looked like the little boxes. The larger formations are called crate work, and the smaller, finer stuff is called lace work. And we see some of that lace work here, I believe. Yeah, some right there. But I think what that all just goes to show, especially as we'll continue for the tour, I'll be naming some things, But I think that all just goes to show that, you know, people 330 million years ago, the entire Black Hills region was once covered in a sea, an ocean of sorts, you see. And in those waters lived these small organisms called brachiopods. Now, those brachiopods, they kind of looked like clams, oysters, mussels. I'm sure you guys have eaten seafood, right? Yeah. So they kind of looked like that, okay? And their bodies were rich in calcium. And whenever they died, they would sink to the bottom of that water. And over time, they would accumulate and sediment would cover them up. And so they would begin to compact and compress and solidify into limestone. And we are almost entirely surrounded by limestone and boxwork right now. Much of this cave system is encrusted within a layer of limestone. It is called the Madison group of limestone. Locally, that is referred to as Paha-Sapa limestone. That comes from the Lakota words Paha meaning black and Sapa meaning hills, right? Black hills. Yeah, that's also why this region is called the Black Hills, all right? But you see, once that limestone formed, eventually it began to experience a lot of stress on it because of the weight of the other sedimentary rocks on top of it, as well as just its massive size. It just began to experience stress. It began to crack. And as it cracked, limestone would fill in those cracks. And through unique chemical processes of the gypsum interacting with the salt water, it turned into calcite. And that calcite hardened and became a bit tougher than the surrounding limestone rock around it. Okay? So after that, carbonic acid, which can be found naturally in groundwater, the carbonic acid began to eat away at the limestone, but it did not interact with the calcite. So yeah, eventually that limestone began to turn to a sort of a sludge or a paste. It just kind of fell out of the holes here. So what we're seeing right now are those ancient cracks in the limestone. Yeah, it's almost like a time capsule. Now, does anybody here know where you can find carbonic acid in your everyday products? Anybody want to take a guess?
Coca-Cola.
Soda, yeah. So you can find it in soda, but you also find it in beer and champagne because the carbonic acid is what makes it bubbly. Alright? So yeah. So think about it like this. If the carbonic acid in groundwater can do all of this to solid rock, what can the carbonic acid in soda, beer, or champagne do to human teeth, right? Leaves behind those minerals, right? It's kind of like the cave is sweating, right? So imagine whenever you get sweaty, you know, the sweat leaves behind a little bit of salt, right? It's kind of like the same concept, except instead of salt, the mineral here is calcite. You see, you know, calcite, which is the same stuff that makes up the boxwork, just in a different form. So, the way that the frostwork forms is a little more complicated. In fact, we still do not fully understand what allows it to form, but we do know that evaporation plays a key role in its formation. However, it's been noted that it occurs both in the presence of high winds and no winds. But we do know that the main mineral of that frostwork is going to be aragonite.
we have hiked a mile loop. It's called the Rankin Ridge Trail, and it has this beautiful, expansive look over the horizon here, and it's off in the distance. I'm gonna actually flip the camera around. There's the lookout tower. We're at the base of the lookout tower. They say watch out, because if it is lightning and thundered in this area, you will get struck by lightning, because we are at 5,300 feet above elevation. That's the highest part in the park here at Wind Cave National Park. So this is the view of the, you can see off in the distance, you can see the prairies, the prairie lands of northern Nebraska, as well as into the parts of South Dakota. Jeff's pointing it out there.
That's the Badlands National Park where we're headed next.
Yeah.
It's about 40 miles away.
This area on the map, it shows that there's a the rugged part of the Black Hills. They called it the Black Hills, the Indians did, because of the fact that it looked black compared to the surrounding area around the prairies. So here's the actual little map, and that's where we are in South Dakota. So it's the southwestern part, and then this is like over here is the Badlands National Park, and that's Buffalo Gap. So there's the Buffalo Gap. You can see the gap in the little ridge. That's where the buffalo came from, the prairie. They eat the grasses in the prairie, then they come up to the higher lands here at Wind Cave National Park. And then they travel back and forth through that little gap. So the Indians call it Buffalo Gap. Then if you look off in the distance here, I'm gonna show you way off in there, we're gonna get a close-up view of that national park. That is the Badlands National Park, which is about 30 to 40 miles due east of here. So we're gonna travel over to that park next. I just wanted to share with you guys this expansive view. Oh, and also of the Rankin Ridge watchtower, the fire watchtower. They don't want anybody climbing up those steps to go to the actual tower, but this is the highest peak in the area, so they are utilizing this area and this tower to look out for fires off in the distance. We got a little bit of clouds coming in, which will be nice for the rest of the day for us hiking over at Badlands. But I just wanted to show you this really cool view of the top peak here at Wind Cave National Park here in South Dakota, and off in the distance of the plains. We have a fairly clear day. It is a little haze off in the distance. I'm glad the California fire that's going in Yosemite is not impacting our air quality here. But if you look, oh, another thing I wanted to show you is that look at that herd of buffalo down where all those cars are down in the valley. We'll probably end up going by that herd of buffalo all the way out of the park. This is the fire road. Jeff's taking a little break under the tree that's to the right there off of the trail, because it's starting to get a little bit warmer. It's starting to get afternoon, but here's grasses. There's that watchtower that they use for fire watch. It's at over 5,300 feet, and this area was kind of interesting because the air quality is super good here in South Dakota. We're kind of a long ways away from, you know, a major city. Rapid City's really kind of off that way, and it's really not that big of a city anyway. But so the air quality is what they call an Airshed 4, which is like the best air quality for air quality management numbers. So they kind of use this type of air quality in their studies of how it affects human life, wildlife, the environment, and all those other things that we consider precious to our health. So that's kind of a neat little read that I had of that last little marker that they had on the trail. This is only a loop, a 1 mile loop trail that goes up to this little tower. I definitely would recommend it if you are at Wind Cave National Park in the future.
This is a little natural rose bush here in the park, and once the rose is done, it creates a little rose hip, and the Indians would make tea out of these.
That's a kind of a cool little thing. I wouldn't even have identified that. Video. There's the buffalo jam. There's the baby buffaloes and a lot of
Look
buffaloes.
at all of them.
And just all over that hillside. And just beautiful. Looking for some water. They need a drinky. Look at all the buffalo coming over here at Wind Cave National Park. So cool to see them up close. Some would think it's probably a little too close, but there's a road between me and them. It's a baby buffalo, bison. And there's all these buffalo. There's some right across the road from me. I gotta keep my eye on them because I know they could charge pretty fast. It would take me a minute to get back into that rental car. But there's quite a big herd of these guys that stretch all the way up the hill here. And they're just nonchalantly having a little snack on the grasses, the wild grasses here at Wind Cave National Park. But a really cool thing to see. And so many babies this time of year. I guess they probably have a lot of spring babies. So I just wanted to show you all this. And we're probably gonna have what they call a buffalo jam, because they are actually getting ready to cross the road and they're gonna probably delay us a little bit. But there's probably, golly gee whiz, probably a couple 100 to 300 of these guys. And there's a little prairie dog right there. So the prairie dogs are playing in and out of their little, that he's saying hi to his friend, the other prairie dog. And the prairie dogs, oh, they're playing. They went down into the hole, and this buffalo wants to get with that herd, and he's talking to that other buffalo, and they don't seem to be liking each other. And just a beautiful sight. This is the America West, the way that it used to be when the Native Americans, the Dakota and the Cheyenne that originated up here in the Dakotas had complete control over this environment and had the buffalo. They used every part of these buffalo that they actually used for. They used their number one, the meat. They used the meat for their consumption. They used the belly, the stomach, for their bowls. They dry the stomach, the lining of the stomach for bowls. They used some of the intestines. They used the hide for warmth. They used hide for teepees as well. So they used every part of this animal to sustain themselves throughout the cold winters here and the warm summers. And they get lots of thunderstorms that come through, that roll through this part of the country. But these are the natural prairies. The herd is starting to get towards the end of the crossing here. But you know what? This is what national parks are all about. Life stands still. They're getting ready to charge each other through that fence. That's going to be an interesting story here. But life stops when you have wildlife like this crossing the road. Nobody is to honk their horn or to try and push one of these 2,000-pound animals out of the way so that they can get to work or to the next stop on the trail, life stops and you stop and enjoy it with it. Doing there, guy? Okay, welcome to another day of adventures with Wes and Jeff, and we are in Wind Cave National Park, and this is one of the begging burros. These guys were left behind from the miners back in the 1880s when they actually came through this area and were looking in the Black Hills for gold. These begging burros have actually learned to beg from the tourists and the park visitors to find out if they will give them something good to eat. There's some off in the distance, and Jeff just gave this guy probably a nut or something. A corn nut. Oh, he likes all kinds of corn nuts and chips and anything else that maybe a tourist will give them. And so he's a pretty nice guy. We got horses at home. They seem to be just as gentle as this guy here. So whatever you're doing today, get out and enjoy the great outdoors and get out and do something that makes you smile. And so it's a pretty interesting place if you ever find yourself up in this part of the country in South Dakota. Swing in here and take a nice tour of one of their caves, one of the cave tours that they offer that are guided by the rangers here from the National Park Service, and just take in the natural beauty of this beautiful park. I encourage everyone, my friends, family, and coworkers, to get out and enjoy the great outdoors. And you know what? Get out there and do something that makes you smile. Life's only so short, so enjoy what you can. Have a great day.